Why do we even have to think about complex metrics? Why don't we pick just simple metrics? Simple metrics is definitely a good start, and I recommend you to start with simple metrics when you never really have worked with metrics before. But the problem with off-the-shelf metrics is they give you a starting point. Because they're off-the-shelf, they are not really custom to your business, to your product, and how everything is working, and especially like in which kind of situation you're right now, and what you want to improve. This is also the concept of a North Star metric, to find a really well-defined metric that gives us a very clear indicator on something that we are optimizing at the moment. And this is something that doesn't really work with off-the-shelf metrics. And so therefore, we definitely need complex custom metrics. And this is something we want to talk about today. I found a really interesting question in one of the product analytics communities, and I took this one and we use this today as an example to take a more complex metric and to see how can we work with this metric in product analytics, because this is often like one of the reasons that holds people back to use more complex metrics, because it's often not so straightforward to use them within the tools. I want to show you this today, how to do this so that you can come up with really good metrics that fit to your current business and product situation. So let's first look into the question, what kind of metrics we are looking for. Okay, so here we have the question, so let me read it out. I'm trying to create a chart for this metric and I'm running into challenges incorporating all of the criteria into one chart. Our metric is number of new users who viewed 4 videos within 7 days. And here you can already see it's a well-defined metric. And we will get into this in a second as well. I got pretty close by setting up a funnel report. However, I'm not sure how to add the counter of page views to this report. The filter doesn't let me use aggregated metrics like total per users. Is there some way how I can add the 4+ page views as a filter here, or is there another type of chart that I should be using? Very good question. So first of all, congratulations. I think the metric is really good because it shows clearly that a team has been sitting down to define what is an indicator that we get into the first very valuable experience. And I guess, let's say, they figured out for them it's okay then when at least people viewed 4 videos within the first 7 days, because either they investigated their existing kind of data and saw that people who became successful or stick to the platform more longer, that they were pretty quick in adopting and viewing videos once they signed up. So this might be something, or they conducted user interviews and found the same thing by talking to the people, and they said, no, look, I was immediately hooked, I checked out 4 or 5 videos and so on. So they came up with this kind of metric, and that's a good starting point, and it's always the best starting point. So you can take this metric and can map it out in your product analytics tool, and then you can investigate if this metric is really a good one over a little bit of time. The good thing is once you have this metric in place, you can run a lot of activities to see if you can improve this kind of metric. So for them, we want to get to people to a first value experience. So you maybe run some specific marketing campaigns, some specific growth campaigns. You maybe change a little bit the onboarding sequence, and you can always check this metric if you improve this. The only criticism that I would have with this metric is I would put it as a relational metric. So I would maybe have it like the number of new users with 4 page views divided by the numbers of new users within the last 7 days. So then it gives you relations, makes it a lot easier to track it over time. But it's a good one. Let's quickly just break it down, because this is something we need to know when we want to build it in the product analytics tool. We are introduced in videos viewed, so this is an event that we are interested in, and it's not that we are interested in general, but we want to have it from new users. New users, because this is our first pass to value, and we're not actually just interested in that they viewed some videos. No, we actually want to have at least 4 or more videos, and to make it a little bit more complex, but which is definitely a good sign, is we want to have it all done within the first 7 days. And this is something that we have to build in a product analytics tool. And starting out in a funnel is definitely not a bad idea. Especially the 7 days is something that comes natural in a funnel, because the funnel always measures the time between one step to the other. So we could have something like someone appears first of all in a system, and then we can check when do they have the videos viewed? So funnel could be an idea, but in the end, you will see we will end up with a different kind of solution. So I don't want to spoil anymore. If you find the same kind of question in the community, you will see that the community was really good and immediately answered with the kind of approach. I now take you through the full example how to build this. So let's hop over to the product analytics tools. So we do it in Mixpanel and in Amplitude, because most used by most of the people, and so you can see, and also like it's interesting to see how both of them handle it slightly differently, but in general, it's like a lot of approaches are quite similar. So let's do this. So we're in Mixpanel now. How I usually approach these things when I want to build something is I want to get a feeling for the data, how it looks like, if the data set really makes sense. I have a test data set here that I just populated yesterday, which in the end have 14 days of data. So it's not a full one, and we will see a little bit the limitation of the 14-day once we have everything populated, because we don't really have a lot of history. But it doesn't really matter, because it's still something that I can show you how the mechanic works. When we check here, so where I usually get started, I'm just trying to get a feeling how the data looks like and how I can filter it down. So we don't have a video platform here. The data set here is for an e-commerce website. In the end, I will not pick videos viewed, but I will pick product details viewed, because it could be something else for an e-commerce store where you can say, okay, this is something that we want to achieve to get people at least view 4 products at least. And it's definitely a good first experience value goal to test out and to see if it's a good indicator or not. Let me pick this. And as you can see here, so we go back, and here you can see, so we have some events. Let me reduce this a little bit. So here you can see we have a lot of people who get to product details view, but we are not interested in the ones who just come there once. We are more interested in the ones that do it at least 4 times. Here in Mixpanel, we have to go to the computed section, and here we have frequency per user. We want to have it for the product details, and we want to have 4. And also we don't want to have equals, even when it's already calculating like this. No, actually we want to have greater than or equal to, because in the end, if someone has 6 or 7, they are also interested for us. That looks good. So we definitely have users falling into this kind of bucket. So now the interesting thing is, okay, we need to get the 7 days here in there. And this is definitely a limitation. It doesn't really work in the insights. The 7-day would work in the funnels, but the greater than equal to 4 would not work in the funnels. So what should we do with this? The solution to it is we have to create a cohort. So a cohort is, we define the different kind of filter criteria that we already started to do here, and we create a bucket that filters down to the people that fit our requirements. The powerful thing about cohorts is, like, first of all, we can use it for anything, because like cohorts, especially in Mixpanel, really behave basically like a first-class citizen. So we can build the same kind of graph here with the cohort that we have been building. So I can basically use it in every kind of report that I have, which is really powerful and really good. I could also use it to send out the data to other tools, and so maybe help our growth teams to do interesting stuff with that. Cohorts are a powerful concept, so we don't go deeply into what cohorts are, but I will show you how to build a cohort for that. Quick reminder, what we could also do, just to give you this, so we could go here to view users and then create cohort from here, and then refine it. This would also be a possibility, and then definitely keep this in mind. This is a very good shortcut if you already have a good selection of things, that you can easily create a cohort from basically everywhere. We will build it by hand, because like it's a good practice to do it, and so let's do it like this. You can go over here, and there you have your famous lexicon. Also, like, we can find the cohorts here, and so you can open it up. And you will see I already created some cohorts, and this is the one where I tested already everything, but we will now rebuild it again so that you can get an idea how to do it. So we create a new cohort. Now we basically do the same thing what we did before. We create our different kind of filter sets that we need. First of all, we want to make sure that we really take in the new users that are, let's say, arrived 7 days ago. We check for users, and then first seen last 7 days. It's already like the default, so we can keep it like this. But we now need the event that we have. We have product details viewed, so we can use this. You can already see like where first seen. Now we have who did product details views, total greater than or equal to. That's good. So we already have the right kind of operators here, so we can put 4 in here. And of course, we are not interested in that they did it in the last 30 days. We are interested in that they did it in the last 7 days. So just let me apply that. And that's it already. Now we have everything in there. So we have in there our 7 days. So first of all, like we have new users in here. We have the last 7 days in here. We have the 4 or greater in here. So we basically have everything that creates the kind of criteria for the metric. So we just have to give it a name. I already gave the other name. So I will just call it temp now because I'm just saving it. I created the other one before, so we can use it in something else. Let me create the cohort. Usually takes a little bit. All right, so cohort is there. And then, okay, this is the first good step. And as you can already see here, I created another cohort that we will now use when we start to work with it, which is our baseline. Of course, we are interested in how many new users are around there because I already said I would like to even bring this metric to another level to bring it into comparison with total new users, because this is what we want to know of how many new users we get people into a really good first value experience. So what I can do now is I go into Insights. And instead of selecting the event here, I select the cohort. And so we take first value experience, and here we go. So these are the people that basically within 7 days at least viewed 4 or more product detail pages. And as you can see here, it's building up. This is like this, let's say the steep thing here you can see here, it's going up here. It's mostly because the data set just starts. And it's, of course, here you cannot really look back 7 days. So the 7 days are missing. So this is like why it's so low. If we now generate, let's say, data for 30 or 40 or 60 days, then you will see here it will most likely flatten out, or maybe not, because you might improve things. But this explains why we have increase here. But now we can work with it. So as I said, I would improve it a little bit, like to bring it into relationship to all new users. So let me add the next cohort. And here we have new users last 7 days. So now we have both of them. And then, of course, you can do the nice thing here that we can create a formula where we can just say, okay, I want to have A divided by B. And then, of course, we want to multiply it by 100 because we want to see the percentage there. So now we get the formula in there, and let me hide the other ones because they're not really relevant for us. And so now we can see the percentage. So now we can see we are at the moment most likely will be end up around 15%. So right now, let's say our conversion rate to this first value experience is around 15%. And this is great because this is now our baseline metrics that we can monitor over time. So course, like we can now put it on a dashboard and we can run all our initiatives to see, do we improve this kind of first value experience by getting more people to view at least 4 videos? And so maybe we get, let's say, to 20% and so on. But now every feature that we bring out, we can measure against this kind of metric, and this makes it so powerful. As said, you definitely need to know how to build it, and I would still love when the tools would introduce something that I can just take a cohort or what I just created here and then properly bring it down into a metric. But I know both of them are working on metrics a lot more, and I think there are a lot more to come. So I'm really hoping that in the end we can really come down to really good metrics definition, because then we make it really easy for all the other business users to just pick a metric and just go with it. This is great. So this is for Mixpanel. Let's do the same stuff in Amplitude. Again, we basically start from a blank slate. I would start to create a segmentation, which is similar to what Mixpanel calls Insight. So I do the same thing. So I'm looking for product details viewed again, because this is the event we are looking for. We have Unix. And what I can do now is I can say, okay, I want to have a historical count. It's the same that we had on the Mixpanel side. And so now we have force, and of course we want to have greater or equal. And here we go. So now we have already like all the people again that at least viewed 4 or more product detail pages. Again, we run into the same problem that we had on the Mixpanel side, is we cannot bring the 7 days here somewhere in there. Again, we could bring the 7 days in there with the funnel, but then we could not really do the historical count. And even if we could do it, like it's just bound to have everything in a funnel, so it's not really nice. So of course, like we want to enable the same thing that we already did on Mixpanel side. And yes, of course, we can do it with the same kind of approach. We are building a cohort. So cohorts you can find here under audiences. And so here you can see them, here are the cohorts, and as you can already see, I already tested a little bit with it, but let's build it again. We define our own. Amplitude also has some templates that you can use if you need to get some kind of idea how to do it. It's definitely a good start, but we feel confident that we can do it ourselves. The first thing that we need to do is, so we say the users had been new. This is the first thing that we need to do. We can do 30 days, but also like we had the 7 days on the Mixpanel side. And again, we want to have an event. And here we take again the product details viewed, and the count should be 4 or more. The 4 more is already here. Then I still like this a lot in Amplitude because like it's a little bit clearer than what a Mixpanel is like. We have a within filter, and so we can say within 7 days. This makes it really clear. And the effect is the same, but I really like the language here that we can do something like this. And by that, we created the same kind of cohort. And so we can now use it in the same way. So let's give me first experience. All right. We have 245 users in there. Again, this is also, I didn't show this on the Mixpanel side, but the Mixpanel side enables me to do the same things. It's always good to check your cohort definition. And you can always do this by just checking the users that are in the cohort. And so it opens up a new dialog. So here, the user lookup, we can at least see, okay, we have a product details viewed here. Then we have one here. Then we have one here, then you have another one. So it definitely looks like that we have 4. And so we could now go even detail, so we can check the time frame. So if the time frame is right, is it really 7 days ago? It was really like within 7 days, and so on. So this makes it really easy for you to get a feeling, okay, does my selection, does my filter really work? Okay, so let's work with it. We can do the same thing what we did for the Mixpanel side. So let's create a new segmentation. The only thing what I can't do here, unfortunately, like in Amplitude, I cannot really use the cohort here, but I can use it in a different place, and I'll show you in a second. What you can now use is like the metrics. Metrics is new, but there's right now not a possibility to basically get a cohort into a metric. So this is why we basically do it in the old way. So we pick an event. I pick any event. Because in the end, what we do here is we are building this down here by the segmentation. So we have all users, and we can filter them down by the cohort. And here we can say, okay, we pick the first experience one that we just created. And now we have a segment 1 that basically is based on our cohort. Okay, so what we can do now is like we do the same thing what we did already at Mixpanel. So we basically introduce a baseline. And so I've created already another cohort as well, like with all new users the last 7 days. And so we can put them in here, and as you can see here, now we have the same thing what we can do. We can build a nice relation, and so here it's a little bit different. So we basically do it as here as a formula. Now comes at least one trick that you always need to know in Amplitude, how to work with this. So how can I combine events with segments that I created? In the end, it's giving you a good indication already here. So any events is called A, as you can see here, like there's the A, and then the segments, I have numbers in front of them. So here we have the 1, and here we have the 2. So in the end, what we can do is like Unix A1 divided by Unix. And here we can see the same thing. Let's say the data set's slightly different, but still quite similar. And we end up with basically roughly the same kind of conversion rate for our getting people into the first value experience. And so we are now here around 12%. And so we can definitely see how this develops over time. And yeah, now we can use it. So it's again, we can create a chart of it, we can put it on a dashboard, we can do the same things what I just described before. So it makes it really powerful. Again, I'm hopeful both product analytics platform that the metrics definition thing becomes much stronger, so that, for example, I can take a formula or like this kind of formula, or I can take a cohort directly and define it as a metric, because like it would be a lot easier for other people to then use it, because thinking about cohorts to metrics is for analysts doable, but for normal business people not. But in the end, like as said, you can build a lot of complex metrics within the product analytics tools, especially by using cohorts. So cohorts is the most powerful concept that if you really haven't looked into it, you should definitely do. With that, I hope this was helpful. And if you have any kind of questions, just let me know in the comments. Subscribe to the channel because there will be more videos about pro things in product analytics. And have a great day.